Hamilton County constantly growing and changing all around our community, from schools to roadways, even local parks.
Joining us this morning to discuss what's coming up for Hamilton County is Hamilton County Mayor Weston Wamp. Mayor Wamp, thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, we're talking about the future of Hamilton County, but I also want to talk about the past and the history of Hamilton County, so we can go back in time a little bit. I had the chance to speak with Linda Moss-Mines and Tom Griscom about the Chattanooga Hamilton County history experience coming up. Seems really exciting, sort of getting rid of that typical museum feel, more of an evolving digital landscape. If you could tell us about the collaboration we're going to be seeing with Hamilton County students and then the filmmakers here as well.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We, about a year ago, started gathering a group of local leaders and historians just to say, what can we do to better tell the story of Chattanooga and Hamilton County? Linda Moss-Mines and John Edwards, who's a historic publisher here of a publication, and then Tom Griscom, who's had a storied career, were part of that team. And we did settle on a different concept than a museum and what's going to be an immersive experience, a partnership between a lot of talented students, a filmmaker named Isaiah Smallman, and it's going to be really exciting. I think it's an important part, it's an important focus for us around America's 250. And if you're a community like this one that's got a great story to tell, but you're not telling it, I think you're missing an opportunity for young people in our county to find their place in our history. Like, that's the missed opportunity. The history of this community is really a riveting one, especially when you take it in the context of American history. And so we're excited about what this is going to look like and feel like. Certainly different than we think than anything anybody would have experienced in another community. Just about a block from the aquarium. So it's right there, kind of in the heart of downtown, where there's already a lot of activity, particularly in the summer months when this thing will open.
Now, you obviously allude to the history here in Hamilton County and in Chattanooga, and you were very vocal in protecting the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul in downtown Chattanooga. There was a proposal to have a large development near Patton Parkway, and obviously so many community members stepped up to speak out against that. You were very, again, vocal against it. Yeah. What do you think the identity of Hamilton County is becoming? Because we see lately so many historic buildings either threatened to be torn down or already have. What do you see the identity of Hamilton County moving forward with projects like that?
Well, one of the reasons that I chose to get involved in that fight and showed up to the Planning Commission, took my seat, made the motion to deny, out of respect for the Basilica, its history. It's the only basilica in the state of Tennessee, so it is a cultural, religious, and architectural icon. But there's also some of these preservation decisions that are just easier than other ones. Some of them are difficult because times do change and buildings serve their purpose and the world evolves around them. But certainly, I think places of faith, communities of faith like this one that have stood the test of time and that do connect back to Chattanooga's origin story. This church existed before the Civil War. The Civil War history of this community is fascinating. This is a place that Lincoln sent Grant to save the Union. Lincoln knew in the throes of the Civil War that Hamilton County, Tennessee was the southernmost place in America where the Union still was the majority. This was a Union county throughout the Civil War. It's a big part of our post-Civil War story. And when you think about the role of St. Peter's and Paul on that same site, that's a history that is clearly worth protecting. Incredibly, the reparations based on damage that took place in the Civil War, reparations paid for the basilica that we have today. Tiffany stained glass by the actual, I remember I was telling my parents this a few weeks ago and they couldn't believe that when I was saying like Tiffany stained glass, I meant like Tiffany of New York.
Yeah.
Like the guy himself designed the stained glass. And so some of these decisions we should all be able to rally around, and so I was happy that we were able to protect the Basilica.
Yeah, completely switching gears here, talking more about the future. I know you guys are always talking about upgrading Hamilton County and keeping it safe as well. I want to talk about Hunter Road, Snow Hill Road, those areas that we're seeing a lot of problems, a lot of accidents. I know you guys have done a lot of improvements in those areas, particularly those two roads. If you could talk about what you guys are doing to those dangerous roads, ones that are more accident prone, and kind of what we're seeing seeing already, if we're seeing any differences.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're up against in this county is growth, particularly in the outer lying parts of the county. The county's growing faster than the city or really any of the municipalities are. A lot of that's because people want a little room to breathe. They want a good school for their kids to go to. And it causes a lot of challenges for the Hamilton County Highway Department. Candidly, before I came over here this morning, I took breakfast to the Highway Department knowing I was going to be on this side of the county just to say thank you for the work that they do, often thankless work. We may not think about it. I think we're all grateful for it if we stop and think about a road that's been de-iced on a dangerous day. But the Highway Department is under really innovative leadership. Our director is a guy named Brandon Myrocker, who we actually hired years ago out of Denver, and so he's got experience with dangerous conditions and elevation and certainly a high-growth community. And so what we did is we did a traffic audit. We hired engineers to do a full safety traffic audit of Snow Hill and Hunter Road, and we've begun in small and big ways to implement, whether it's better signage, changing the way that we stripe roads, because it's a double-edged sword. Some people want these roads significantly widened. That is incredibly expensive, which means you may pay more in taxes. It also means that there will be more growth. Now, obviously, the core frustration is there's too much traffic on these roads that weren't built for that traffic. But the solution, we think, starts with safety measures, right? And then from there, we can make larger and more expensive infrastructure investments, but we're really focused, whether it's reflectors on mountainous roads, doing things that the Highway Department has wanted to do for a long time. We've tried to fund them so that we can ensure that county roadways, even though they're going to be busy, because there's more people living in the county than ever before, but that they're safe. And
you mentioned the investment in our local communities, and it seems like there's some ideas for investments in Lookout Mountain and, of course, at Camp Jordan in Eastridge for a splash pad in the Lookout Mountain area. And then, of course, that Camp Jordan, the soccer fields, the baseball fields, some new turf in that area. I mean, Hamilton County is going to be home to the Spanish national team for the FIFA 2026 World Cup. So that's pretty exciting. Do you think those improvements are geared toward bringing in those national teams or just people, visitors all across our area? Yeah, so the splash pad's an interesting one. It's in Lookout Valley at the foot of Lookout Mountain in a community that's one of our great kind of historic communities, a multi-generational community on the furthest west side of town. If you're leaving Chattanooga on your way to Nashville, that's Lookout Valley. And there's the 18th hotel is under development over there. And what that means that people may not realize is that the county and the city of Chattanooga generate a lot of what we call hotel-motel tax revenue. It's not revenue that people who live here pay. It's revenue that people who are visiting pay. And between the city and county, we collect about $23 million of hotel-motel tax. What we're trying to prioritize in the county is that we use those funds both to promote our community, but also reinvest in it. Like reinvest in assets, whether it's facilities like Camp Jordan, youth sports facilities. We invested in turf in Harrison a couple years ago with these funds. We're doing a splash pad with these funds because we think there's a balance where we can serve both the interests of tourism and growing our tourism economy, but also in a way that serves local families, right? I think sometimes it's gotten a little too focused just on, kind of more tourism without consideration to reinvesting in the quality of our community. Because the quality of our community and the assets that we invest in, even things like this history museum, is a balance of people who visit will enjoy it, history experience that we were talking about earlier, but then also, people who live here and local students will have an opportunity to participate. So that's what we're really trying to re-emphasize is how can we use these hotel-motel funds that are generated by people who visit to benefit both industry and the people who live in our community. We need some warmer weather so we can use that splash pad, right? Yeah. That's right. Well, we need some cold weather to build it so that then we can use it in the warm weather.
Yeah. Well, a lot to look forward to for Hamilton County. Mayor Weston Wong, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.